Agatha Harkness returns. From the twisted minds of WandaVision, hungry for power, determined for revenge. Starring Katherine Hahn as the terrifying witch Agatha Harkness.
Join me.
Watch if you dare.
What happens next?
The most blood-chilling reality war.
Big series.
You'll wish you had kept your eyes on Agatha All Along.
So good. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to X's for Show, your premium media response show where we talk about all your favorite nerdy things. You can check the show out at X's for Show. As for me, you can check me out with these guys always at Nico Action, Nicoection.
And you can find me at TK Elemental.
You can find me, your producer, at Kevo Really. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so we know what you want us to cover in the future. But we've got something on the agenda today. We are at the midpoint of the ostensibly only season of Agatha All Along, and we had some bombs dropped this week. So let's talk. How are we feeling?
First.
First.
Okay. Is it a bomb?
Okay, yes, that is fair. Yes, exactly.
But there's there's a lot of levels of is it a bomb, right? Like, I think about the fact that not only do I not know if he really is. Oh, yeah.
Everybody who is watching, spoilers for all of Agatha.
Yes.
I mean, I only want to say the cover image is literally the last moment of filmed footage.
It's true.
So
it is true.
Right.
Yeah.
People stumble into things,
Yeah,
so
totally.
And that image is floating around and people don't know. But just to be sure, full spoilers, full everything, and we're diving into probably the biggest one immediately. Come back or don't.
I think we know. Yeah.
Is he really Wiccan? Do we know?
They didn't say it.
No.
And like, if he is even, right? Like, if it's not just one of Lillian's visions, right?
Ooh.
If it's not Lilia, if it's not just one of Lilia's visions, if it's not just a trial, if it's not just giving him ultimate wish fulfillment, what if he is Nicholas Scratch, but wishes that he was really Scarlet Witch's son, because that's a better evil witch to be the child of instead of the runner-up witch. But then, even then, what if he is Wiccan, but he sucks and we get a new one? And like, he is Nicholas Scratch's Wiccan the way that they've done other people sharing people's costume identities. I'm just saying, there is a multiverse of madness to be had with this little fagness over here.
Yes. I do. I mean, I think as soon as they announced that Joe Locke was cast, immediately everybody was like, that's obviously who it is. And immediately everybody was like, and of course that's who it is because Kit Harington needs to play Hulkling, and then they just will continue this legacy of being on-screen boyfriends for...
Wait, but I'm not trying to correct, isn't Kit Harington the one that's...
Sorry, not Kit Harington, Kit Connor?
Kit Connor.
Thank you.
No, Kid Cloud Kicker.
Yeah, that's the one with the hat I like. Yeah,
and flew on the little board with his big bear, Baloo.
Yeah.
Spin it again.
Kit Connor,
who I would not want. Like, I'm actually even okay if this is Billy in a lot of ways, but I don't want any of the speculated Teddies. I don't want that boyfriend on the lock screen. I don't want. We did decide it was Kit Connor. Yeah, I don't want.
It is. You don't?
No, not especially. I feel bad. It's nothing against him, and I'll get on board if it's what happens. But I don't know.
Is he just not who you would choose?
He and I agree with some of the stuff he said about, they can't do this for the rest of their lives, and it's true. I think what they've built on Heartstopper is great, and I'd love for them to have more of a Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, where they ever do a project together. But like, this is signing on to a huge commitment.
This is why I don't like it. I think if they had found this first, I would be very happy for them to be Billy and Teddy. Right. I don't like the idea that they already did Heartstopper together, and then because it speaks to that same thing as like, well, let's just cast Robert Downey Jr. again, and like get him back in because that's a safe bet and everybody loves that. The idea that rather than looking for like potentially other really great actors, people who maybe embody the characters more, they would just go with two people who already through another show screen tested well as a gay couple. That's why I don't like it. And because it does really lock them into, it's going to be probably 15 to 20 years of being these characters by the time all is said and done. Yeah, I agree with that. I do think it is what's happening, but I respect that they saw they had this thing on their hands where immediately when there is a kid cast on the sequel show to WandaVision, everybody's going to say, well, of course that's who it is. And so they introduced, it's funny, I was asking my partner Jake, I was like, are there any other like even men, like not just boys, but like men who you could say were boys who are magic users that these guys could be, like any Marvel names? Like, you know, it's not Baron Mordo. It's not.
I think he's a young Nightmare. Like, I think like that's what he looks like, because I feel like he's sort of it's just the makeup. I'm not coming for anybody, but he kind of looks like what's in the Matryoshka of Rachel Dratch. And so I was thinking he might be Nightmare.
No,
Wow, I almost ruined my keyboard. Okay, we're okay. We're gonna make it through this.
I don't know if I fully understand the Matryoshka. I kind of do. But no, I think one of the things that is really giving me pause about this being the actual what we are doing here is I can't help noticing that we are on episode 5, which for WandaVision was the Evan Peters reveal. And we at the time were like, oh, this is what they're doing. He's Quicksilver. And then not only was that not what we did, it was kind of a disappointment what they had to do. I forgive a lot of stuff toward the end because of COVID production and blah, 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 blah. But like they really lost the thread on what they did with bringing in Evan Peters to play this character in this way, I feel. And so I hesitate to get too hyped that this reveal is exactly what we think it is yet.
I will say I definitely never thought Evan Peters was Quicksilver. And this one, it feels a little bit more. I really was sure he was going to be Nicholas Scratch, right? Until Aubrey Plaza said he's not your son. I really like this Nightmare. The other reason I like the Nightmare theory is because he does look like Nightmare if you made Nightmare into a teen. Like he also looks like Dream. Like Joe Locke looks like he would play like Daniel maybe in an adaptation of you know the one.
Yeah, the one we can't talk about the guy anymore.
Yeah, Sandman. Sorry, my brain is just.
Oh, it's like always right behind me. So
I know. But yeah, I like that theory. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, you can see how like if you turned that into a teen, it would be this teen. And we're talking about Mephisto on the show now, so like any big eldritch horror names are possible.
No, I don't know. You guys okay with the the rumor is a guy.
Rumor Willis.
I wish. Well, no, but I mean the person that it's rumored to be, because there's a rumored Mephisto.
Oh yeah. I think I might know who.
And they're one of the loves of my performing life. You guys all cool? Sacha Baron Cohen is rumored to be Mephisto in
Ironheart.
In Ironheart.
I so doubt it.
He is an Ironheart. He was added after the fact. He is listed as like Mr. Dark Magic Dark God or whatever. Like
that will be very interesting to see. I really do doubt that, but that would be very interesting to see and extremely funny only because it would be very funny if they made Mephisto have various incarnations that sort of mimicked Sacha Baron Cohen's various incarnations like that. I would love it if it was
him.
I know, but I feel like in that same way, that's why people are like, that's why you pick John Krasinski to play Mr. Fantastic, and then they spaghettified him and picked a terrible Mr. Fantastic. But
now you could try Mephisto's Miracle Elixir.
Yeah. So I know that you had, Nico, your Forbes article that kind of spoiled some of the Wiccan stuff for you, which is unfortunate. Something that I specifically saw was Love of Our Life, whose role was specified in the press release. Excuse me, how'd that get there? Cooper from Private Practice. Let's get whoever this person is out of here. I don't know who that guy is in the corner. He's listed as I forget what the first name is, but he's listed as Billy's dad. He's listed as with the last name Kaplan. Something that I wonder if they might do instead of "This is Billy," I could see them pulling a twist at the very end where we meet this person who we learn is named Kaplan, who has a child named Billy, who is setting up a future. And like a lot of this stuff is meant to perhaps lead into actually meeting Billy and Tommy and establishing the Young Avengers. And this is just a tease. But that is one of the things that I thought of when, we just love him so much. And I'm so excited to see him here.
Stop doing that to me. It's not cute. My eyes visibly go like...
Here, focus on Sheldon.
Oh, I love Sheldon, little turtle.
What do we want? Gay babies. When do we want them? Now.
No brains. But the thing I do want to engage about is, like, all seriousness, TK, you happen to be unbelievably youthful looking. Like, you not just you not just take care of yourself, but you have like features that keep you young. Like, you have a young face.
I do not take care of myself. I just have weirdly boyish features.
And also, he exercises till it's dangerous. So that's totally fine. He does not take care of himself. He endangers himself.
I don't take care of my skin or anything. Like, I don't do anything. I literally, a lot of times, guys, don't wash my face, honestly.
Gross. But so the whole reason I was complimenting you until you turned gross.
Don't bother.
I don't want to see this motherfucker at 47 play Wiccan for the first time in a Young Avengers movie, because that's the first time we're going to get a Young Avengers movie, unless the asterisk in Thunderbolts is times Young Avengers, like it's an anime.
I mean, I think where it's too late for that anyway. The rest of the Haley Steinfeld is like 3 years younger than we are.
What is the deal with these old Young Avengers?
No, I mean, that's funny, but like also she's not 3 years younger than we are. She's 27. But her closest relative, like famous relative, is Body by Jake. Jake Steinfeld, her uncle.
Oh, you know who I'm always waiting for somebody to be related to?
What?
Evan Steinfeld from Oz. Okay, well, that went badly. So
hold on, I gotta look this up. Oh, okay.
No, actually, in all seriousness, that's an actor that if we're gonna get the ball rolling on that episode of who hasn't been cast in the MCU yet, truly, it is very few people who are one of my favorite poets, one of my favorite news writers, one of my favorite political minds, one of my favorite songwriters of his genre. Where the fuck is Henry Rollins in all of this?
I mean, Henry Rollins, we just read that article where he's like, I wouldn't do it for money. I don't think he would ever do. It would have to be.
He did Avatar: The Last Airbender for the glory of animation.
Yes, I do. I think he did it because it was a really heartfelt kids program.
Okay.
I would be so to go back. I think we've lost it with Young Avengers. Young Avengers are in their mid to late 20s. That's just what's going to happen. That's where we are. They're going to be generically not teenagers. I think we have to hope for Champions or Avengers Academy or I think it's Young Avengers are not going to be the Young Avengers as we knew them. Jesus, the way they have photoshopped Aubrey Plaza's body.
Wait, hold on.
Well, she's like supposed to be corpsey. What?
Has this always been a promo episode image, or was this from later in the season?
No, this has always been a promo image. Why?
Oh, so Mrs. Hart was never going to be.
Yeah.
Wow. So like when everybody on the internet is like, "Oh no, Kitty Foreman," and I'm like, "Oh no, now I'm gonna point at this image and be like, none of you paid attention."
Well, she's Mephisto.
Mephisto.
that's the thing about so much of this show. I feel like a lot of the plot is, well, like, well, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, of course Mrs. Hart doesn't keep going and she's replaced by Aubrey Plaza. Like, sure, there have been a lot of commercials where she's not in as much of it, and Aubrey Plaza, like, of course.
I think people got really into their ideas of what was happening, which I get. Like, we all do that with the MCU. And again, I always point to John Krasinski. Everybody was like, he is introduced here and he is going to be Mr. Fantastic. Like, even after he's spaghettified, everybody was like, well, that's just that universe's. We'll see him again and it will be John Krasinski. It's John Krasinski. And then, of course, it wasn't. Similarly, people were like, Emma Caulfield's going to be the Yellow Witch. Kitty Foreman will be the whatever color, the Blue
Bambi
Witch.
Thug is going to be the Shamrock Witch.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's going to be in there, and it's going to be revealed that they've always been witches, and Wanda is. And I'm like, I love your headcanons. I love your theories. I always go back to the Ron D. Moore. I was very hesitant to show life on the base star and life among the Cylons, because whatever you guys imagined was going to be better than what we could produce. And
Wolverine syndrome.
I got to meet him at a con and be like, hey, that was like one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever heard. And the one thing it doesn't apply to is you. Like, you actually nailed it. Life on the base star was so cool and so haunting. But I love that piece of advice, and it makes you think a lot of the time, like, what you should and shouldn't show. I think that happens here a lot too, where people have these great ideas for who characters or who actors could be as characters, what it possibly is going to happen in the show to resolve things. And then, God bless us all in our great imaginations, but a lot of that stuff is not feasible for Marvel or Disney to do. And so we get what we get.
I think my greatest awakening to that idea and how what you're delivered can be such a complete disconnect from what you thought you might get was Star Wars Episode 8. Not anything even specifically against it, but people spent like 2 years between films speculating on these characters and how they would grow and develop and get to know each other and the bonds they develop. And the next movie comes out, and it's only like a week after the first movie. So automatically, every single thing that you imagined where there could have been any amount of time where these characters spent together and bonded and grew, like there was between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, all of that is erased. And it was such a jarring thing to happen at the very beginning of the movie. And it's not that it was a bad storytelling device, but it was so unusual from what a Star Wars film normally does between films. And it just wasn't what you were expecting as a fan, literally living out 2 years in real time. And the characters did not. It was literally only a week. And that was something that always stuck with me, as you go in with an expectation and it can be from moment one just knocked off its heels.
And one of the things that I definitely think about is when Kevo and I attended a very small offshoot spinoff of a NYCC summertime attempt at a con special edition. We saw a writer who had been one of the writers on the first 2 seasons of Lost. And I can only think to describe him as a sexy Latin daddy, Fisher Stevens. And he explained that they basically burned through, he knew either he had been on 24 or he knew people who had been on 24, and they burned through the entire 24-hour Bible in 7 episodes. And on Lost, basically, they did have a plan. People guessed it on the internet immediately, and every time they saw someone make a guess, they quickly worked to change it. Which is why so much of Lost is like making the most of what you've got left. And, I flash to this particular explanation of mincemeat. Mincemeat no longer contains meat, but once upon a time, it was the scraps of meat, and you would put things in to spice it up and fill it out. And one of the things that has my attention about Agatha All Along is Agatha All Along should be mincemeat, but they've instead chosen to find a way to make this engaging and exciting. I actually kind of live for the fact that they're just wiki they're wiki witches. They are, oh, I do potions, you do futures, cool. I'm a significant actress. No, I'm a significant actress. Cool. Oh, there's a song. There's multiple versions of the song. There's a super cool version of the song playing in the background right now that you can check out very soon on YouTube Music, featuring the it's Agatha's theme and Ballad of Witches Road. You can check that out. Very exciting. But the thing I find really interesting is you can either write to your fandom or not. And when you need to go 8 seasons, writing to your fandom is a really bad move, because you can only do the boob reveal so many times before it's like, it's boobs, we get it, right? But like, if you have 1 season, it's boob reveals to the end. And I feel like this show is so cleverly designed. And Jack Schaefer, I promise I don't mean this way. Please don't be mad at me. But this is a Jeff Johns universe. And we're all just sort of living Blackest Night, I think. And it is just like somebody finally said, what if there were red lanterns and yellow lanterns and blue lanterns and orange lanterns and pink lanterns? And it was like 2004 when somebody said that. And I feel like in a lot of ways, that's kind of what Jack Schaefer is doing here. She's just kind of coming in and going, did you guys not think all of this was in the background? Because I can tell that your headcanon, your fandom, exactly what TK was saying, you all have it there. I'm just going to do mine, and it's canon because you can't stop me.
And she's backed up by source material. Like, this is pulling from the Scarlet Witch run where she goes down the Witch's Road. And
James Robinson, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. And meets the various color witches. The Green Witch is a dude, so of course things are different. But I mean, this show is really interesting to me, and it also goes to something that I was talking about maybe during comics coverage, something recently, where like promotion is such a huge name of the game. I don't know that this show would be having the success it's having if Patti LuPone hadn't gotten on Hot Ones and refused to apologize to Madonna. So much of and what I was talking about is like, I'm not even saying you need to spend the money on trailers and promo materials and getting that out there. It's literally sending the cast onto Hot Ones and the Watch Mojo interview that's going to get cut into TikTokable clips, and somebody says something really funny, or you see how much chemistry Aubrey Plaza has with all of her co-stars, and she and Patti LuPone talk about how they want to do Gypsy together. Sashir is on her podcast with Nicole Byer and just talking a little bit about the show, but then you also just see how funny she is, so you're really into her. And just, it's nothing but clips of these people having a ton of chemistry. And for me, like, that's what I feel like is driving so much of the engine here, where I look at something like Ms. Marvel, which to me is as exciting and as good as this is. I enjoyed every episode of Ms. Marvel the exact same amount that I enjoy this show, just in a very different way. Totally different genre of show. The vibe is completely different. The lead is totally different. They're just completely different shows, but one is not better than the other. I do feel one is catching the vibe of the nation and what we all need to do to promote shows better than the other. And that's, of course, Agatha.
And I think part of that has to do with how we engage with storytelling. There's an accessibility where we can have whatever feelings we want about most of the cast of Agatha because they're adults. But there is a protected sanctity that prohibits us from necessarily having all of the feelings we would have about children, right? So with the only real child on this show being teen, and like the shut the fuck up, mama, like the gay gasp face on this,
young adult.
The actor's an adult, so we're fine. Like we can shit talk him all day long. Iman Vellani is off limits. She's a child. She's actually now probably legally an adult, but
so that means fair game. I'm kidding, but but the thing that really gets me is I don't feel like we have fair surface field when we're talking about some of these characters. Agatha is disposable. Who cared about Agatha 10 years ago? Who cared about Agatha 5 years ago? I mean, yes, we did because we're ancient old gays. We are the hags of comics. Congratulations. We need to go find us an LCS that is an Elton John-esque piano bar. But like the human consumption mind did not care so much about Agatha Harkness outside of being a minor reference in a Buffy footnote from season 7. So I find myself thinking,
and Captain Jack from Doctor Who. Sorry, but even then,
another great one.
You knew that before. He was the most famous one until now.
And so, but who else is Wiccan? Who else is the little white gay boy that fulfilled so many little twinklets, piggy fantasies? Who else is the guy who gets the shape-shifting hot boyfriend who can get as big and strong as he needs to protect him? There is so much that is boiled into the identity of the cultural white gay that Wiccan represents, that Agatha just represents us thinking this is a great actress, a great character, great writing at a great time. And so Agatha herself is an expendable commodity that allows and facilitates the storytelling to do whatever it needs to do to make the most compelling ideas. Whereas if this had been a Young Avengers piece in any form, it would have been beholden to corporate interests in a way that would have limited Jack Schaefer's vision for the story.
It's interesting. You pulled it together at the end for me. Because you're essentially making a positive argument for why this show was able to work out the way it does. Because the thing is, I agree with you up until the end of WandaVision. Or not even the end, but like midway through. Once we realize that Kathryn Hahn is sort of carrying the tent pole of the show that is fun and joy, because without Kathryn Hahn it's not funny or fun for most of it. Like Wanda is just too angsty. We immediately know that there's a problem and Wanda is angsty. Too much other stuff is happening. We do get Kat Denning in to bring a little bit of humor, but like no, Evan Peters can't do it. Paul Bettany can't do it. Like none of most of the main cast can make it silly, fun, campy, joyous, raucous, nasty, all of the stuff that she brings to the table. So by midway through WandaVision, she's essentially indispensable to Jack Schaefer's vision. But as far as, exactly as you're saying, as far as Marvel is concerned, she's entirely dispensable. She is essentially a blank slate. This is not Agatha Harkness from the comics at all, and we never deal with that. Rather than deal with that, we have just worked very hard and terrible writing to make Agatha a hot young bitch in the comics, which is very silly to me, only because the other thing is this is killing Agatha in the comics because nobody is writing Kathryn Hahn's voice onto that character in the comics. So it's just kind of a young looking person with crazy eyes showing up and doing not great. Like, give Jack Schaefer a comic. Give Kathryn Hahn a comic. If Iman Vellani can have one, give Kathryn Hahn one. It shocks me to this day that they have not figured out how to de-age Aunt May. Because people have responded so well to Marissa Tomei, and you know, it's the same thing where I'm just like, it's just this old lady that nobody cares about, and then somebody makes her young and hot, and the comics fall all over themselves in the case of Agatha Harkness to retcon things.
part of where the argument becomes even more difficult is this doesn't really want to use its source material. This wants to be odd at its source material.
Yeah, it wants to be like, we do own the properties. You know, we do have the ability to cite and footnote and bookmark. But no, we are not interested in doing adaptation here.
And, you know, when you're talking about these sorts of characters like Agatha, who doesn't have a whole lot of backstory that the general public engages with, or, you know, Jennifer Kale, one of the things that you wind up doing is you wind up relying on what people think about the actors so much. Yeah. And I'm not here to criticize that avenue, because I love what it's brought to the Marvel Universe. I love what it's brought to fandom. There's no such thing as a bad fan. As long as you come with good intentions and an open mind toward most people in fandom, you're fine. Good. Come play. But the thing that it does sometimes lead to is erasure of classic identity, and classic identity almost always focuses on characters that aren't just sexy cool teens, and sexy cool teens asterisk, they're all 18 or 19 for the sake of the argument of the adjective. But one of the things it makes me think about is, where go the Aunt Mays? Where go the Agatha Harkness? Where go the Jarvis type characters when they're all replaced by younger, hotter versions? Though, you know, thinking about, like, it's so stupid, but all I can think now is Peter Griffin being like, Lois, you have to be Aunt May for me in a Spider-Man thing. And her being like, oh, Peter, you're webbing up again. And like this horrible thing that my incredibly sexy husband...
Did this happen? Or is this like from Family Guy, or are you just making this up?
It's what I watch a lot of Family Guy clips, unfortunately. It's what I'm saying would be a really great thing for my husband Seth to write for my dream cast, Alex.
Wait, what?
You want Alex Borstein to play Aunt May?
As Lois as Aunt May in this fetish scene.
All right, okay, I get it. I'm actually here for this.
Now you guys get it, and I feel so stupid, but like, and it's ridiculous.
Let's get this produced.
Peter would have like cardboard sets made of it, and Stewie would find them inferior and would insist on making better ones, and Brian would get annoyed at Stewie's sets and would make his more comic accurate sets. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, no, I think you're cooking with gas on this one. I have a lot of respect here.
I want to do a different broadcast. That's what would Peter Parker be like if he was from Boston or LA?
I mean, being from Rhode Island and being from Boston is a very potato situation, the way they do it over there. Anyway, I
believe it's potato.
Particularly this idea of like, the character is now really taking on a lot of flavor of the actor when they're this minor and insignificant. Lilia Calderu, another phenomenal example, will be very interesting to see in the comics, because in the comics, she is already a hot bitch. Patti LuPone looks
different kind of hot bitch.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Lilia Calderu is young looking and is not Patti LuPone in any way, but also is nobody, and nobody cares about her, and it means nothing. So will she now be remade into Patti LuPone?
Or is she fine? Yeah.
What are you laughing at? What
first character to be de-hotted?
Yeah, I mean, but like, we're gonna have to do it eventually.
And I think Patti LuPone is the hottest bitch on the planet. Like,
I mean, she's very like
amazing.
She's a bad bitch. Don't get me wrong.
I've seen her in way too many plays to not think she's the baddest bitch alive.
Yeah, I'm in no way saying she is not a viable sexual creature. If Martha Stewart can do it, but
two of the most perfect women ever.
But it's definitely a different vibe than Lilia Calderu in the comics. And similarly, Jennifer Kale is not black, which is whatever, but she's also nothing in the cause. She's nobody. And Sashir is bringing so much interesting light to the Kales, who are kind of can be hugely important if you want them to be. The Kales are Ghost Riders. That's basically all the big Ghost Riders that you know are technically Kales, for anybody who does not know that. The Spirit of Vengeance is technically a Kale. And for this to be in the MCU, the only canonical member of the Kale family that we have kind of puts us in a really interesting position. Can you imagine seeding the entire Ghost Rider section of the Marvel Universe based off this woman? I think that would be phenomenal and accessible.
If you're telling me Johnny Blaze is a fabulously amazing black man, I am in. Like, it's so stupid, but like, not to be vengeful against any group, but when you've seen 1,000 iterations of that thing, it de-escalates the value of it sometimes. I've seen so many versions of what I recognize to be like white, cool 80s biker guy pain. Yeah. Like, I've seen so many versions of Ghost Rider with AC/DC tattoos, and I understand they're like the third greatest selling band in the history of Australia. But like, I would love to see a really cool New Orleans inspired Ghost Rider really channel those elements in a really dynamic way. And so, you know, but then the other side of it is, I'm not here for like, oh God, I'm so ready for white Blackula. Not Dracula. I want race flipped white Blackula.
I mean, it's always the punching down argument. It is always fine to make characters black because there just haven't been enough black characters. And it's kind of always lame to make characters white because white people get everything. If you can't accept that, you're just not paying enough attention to what's happening. We're not going to have this argument with you. It really is basically always acceptable. And biker culture is really interesting because I don't think they can't do... What was that show with Charlie Hunnam in the biker
Sons
club?
of Anarchy, and it's one of the most... No, I'm so sorry, but it's a Katie Seagal show.
Yeah, it's a Katie... I was about to say exactly that. It really is a Katie Seagal show.
I just really love Katie Seagal, and I think...
And I love that she'll threaten to kill a baby and mean it. That's... As one should.
Gemma...
Sorry, I said it. As one should. Marvel can't make Sons of Anarchy... What?
Just as Katie Seagal, she'll threaten a baby.
Yeah. Marvel can't make Sons of Anarchy. Hold on, I think one of us is delayed. I think it might be me.
It might be me.
It might be me.
All right,
everybody take turns one at a time. I'm
gonna make my point, and then I'm gonna flop out for a second. Disney can't ever make Sons of Anarchy or anything like it. The best that they could really do is something that I find really fascinating that we're seeing lately, which is like biker culture is very much like country and cowboy culture. Black people are always a part of it, but we do not associate it with black people. We gave Beyonce such a hard time about making a country album and not being part of the country world when Beyonce is from Texas. Country is part of who she is, and nobody needed to question her bona fides. She should have been eligible for all the CMAs. There's no question about it. Black people are into biker culture too, but biker culture is always depicted as being a really white thing. And the best thing that Marvel could do, since they can't do Sons of Anarchy because they can't show that level of violence, is give us something that we know is there but we've never seen, which is black biker culture. And to that end, I just think we have already seeded that Jennifer Kale really could be the first step in giving us the black Ghost Riders that we knew, but then also like then it makes it all the better for Robbie Reyes and Kushala and all these other Ghost Riders to show up. And then in 10 years, Phantasma, this new Champions roller skating Ghost Rider, can show up and be a white girl and it'll be fine.
And part of what I'm really hoping for from the Marvel Universe at this point is an opportunity to engage with newness. I think back to why I was excited to share the Marvel universe with people, what got me engaged was being like, no, but you don't know how cool this story is. And not like, but you don't know how obscure this story is. I want to be able to be like, no, you've heard of this character. You love Miles Morales, and look how he's going to be in this movie. It was a little tougher with Agatha, but culturally speaking, the Frozen people made sure you couldn't let it go. I do need to be clear with you. The nightmare monsters behind Let It Go are also the Agatha All Along people. So you owe the same nightmare machine, you know? But I think one of the things that has me really curious is not to make everything about this thing, but I was 22, 21 when Wiccan first debuted, and his gayness was 2005. So I was 19.
2005, yeah, you would have been just 19. About 19-ish, yeah.
So I was just a couple of years ahead of him in life, and one of the things that happens is I continue to age. I am now realistically the size they wanted us to think that 16-year-old Hulkling was. And I think it's really, out of Hulkling form. But I'm, being funny about the fact that one of the things is the characters being too big and too out of control young really does kind of start here in some ways. But the thing that happened is I became a man who grew up with Wiccan as a part of my psychology. And a couple of years I spent being like, no, I'm Wiccan. I was down to like 165 pounds. I was a skinny little thing. And I, am pagan by, spiritual belief. And I would also have been Asgardian because I would also want to, say Krakathum when I lay down my hammer. And it would be awesome, right? And then I got into bodybuilding and wanted to be the biggest guy in the world. And immediately was like, I'm Hulkling now. And had that gay experience. Somewhere along the line, though, I just started having the Novar gay experience. Where I am just kind of happy to put a butt in front of me, put boobs in front of me. I just want to feel happy and sexy and make you eat my poison nails. And that's where Young Avengers ultimately winds up. So part of what I'm really interested in is Joe Locke, by the way, everybody get to the back of the line because Joe Locke and Brie Larson in the last 2 or 3 weeks, the quotes coming out about their fandom are so cool, are so special, are so these people have that magic. Sometimes people are novelists and get contacted by Marvel to write a comic and they're like, yeah, I'll write it. I've never read Iron Man before, but I'm into him now, right? No, these two loved Marvel and were ready to accept the honor of working in this universe. So whether he's Nicholas Scratch, whether he's Wiccan, or whether he's nobody, and it's an original character created for this, as I said earlier, heavily eyelinered creature, brilliant and beautiful. But his queer identity is 15 years removed from mine. And I'm being a little facetious because I age up a little bit myself, but I'm curious how this Wiccan is going to hit somebody like TK, who I look to as somebody a little older than me, even though the amount of time isn't as much as our focus maturity is different. And then comparatively Kevo, who, while the same age as me, often looks to me to lead and has a different position. So I'm fascinated how this young man's performance is going to affect the three of us differently.
Yeah, I think one thing is I really see how this is all written by adults.
Right.
And it's, I think you probably have the closest perspective, Nico, right now on how teens are experiencing their gender and sexual identity. Not to sexualize teens, but when people come out and when people figure out, it's National Coming Out Day today, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
oh my god, no, yeah. Just to clarify, as a teacher, every now and then students will just be like, "Hey, so I forgot my lunch money today, and also, you're the first person I'm telling I'm gay. Anyway, I'm gonna go eat a pretzel. Bye. What do you think about the middle thing?"
Are you bi? I'm confused.
no one's paid me enough. No one has paid me enough to answer that question.
Does he expect me to buy him the pretzel?
Probably. With all the pretzel.
Jack Schaefer is 45. I don't have the full complement of the writer's room, but you don't get into a writer's room like this being 18.
Right.
None of that means that it can't be great writing, that it can't be authentic to young people's experience of life, but all of the memes about him being like the little high school kid that hangs out with the English teacher, like so much of the stuff that I'm seeing is also coming from adults. Like this is not necessarily a teen for teens to reflect their experience.
I cringe. I'm young.
Oh my god, iconic.
I mean, it's very, and that's fine. It is what it is. But it is also speaking to the fact that like these can't be the young event. Like these can't be teenagers. Like as soon as that team comes together, they have to be in their 20s because nobody involved in their creation, production, or even their acting. I love you, Joe Locke, but you're 21. Nobody is a teen. So our only choice is, I think, to, and I again, that's how it always is. Like that we don't hire 15-year-olds to go be in writers' rooms. But I actually think Marvel really does have the opportunity to get closer to doing that, and to more authentically create a team of actual teenagers. And I do think it's going to have to be the Champions or something like that. But in the meantime, I mean, I love Joe Locke. I think he's fantastic. I'm really open to whatever this is. I'm fascinated by, I think people are more excited about Joe Locke right now than they are about Paul Bettany being the star of Vision Quest. And I'm sort of curious for what that means at the idea that they're selling WandaVision, Agatha All Along, and Vision Quest as a trilogy.
Not enough people appreciate Vision Quest.
This is another thing. This is another thing where like
Madonna singing Gambler and Live to Tell, and it's just not appreciated enough for being a terrible movie from the 1980s.
I hate you because I was really agreeing with you about Vision Quest the comic, and then you brought it to one of the best movies of all time. But no matter what, I'm crazy for you, so it's okay.
Nice. A thought occurred to me that I'm not sure whether or not it actually counts as potentially in the camp for not cast as the actual Billy. But as you were saying, I was thinking this is the most hype I think anyone has been about the potential of Wiccan being in. And so I wonder if that is even part of the misdirect to just get people hype about the character before truly introducing who's going to play them. If it is going to be the returning actor, we're talking about all these actors' ages, and right before Agatha, I managed to be able to watch all of WandaVision, and I had just enough time to also watch Multiverse of Madness because it continued Wanda's story and it has America in it. And at the time, that actor was like 15, and now she's only 18. And so that's also something I'm thinking about in terms of the actors that they invested in who, when they were younger. The actor who played Wiccan in WandaVision, I think, is 14 now, and the one who played Tommy is 17, actually, weirdly, very far apart in age. But, like, they're close in age to America to the point where I wonder if there is an intention with a younger set still.
And that's even part of my concern. Like, I think about the number of characters that have already been introduced who are technically young Avengers, but like, Haley Jerry Seinfeld is like 207,
I wonder how old Eli is from Falcon and Winter Soldier.
The chick who plays
Not
Stature, AARP.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, the fact is, if you grew up on Recess, then you're too old to be a young Avenger. If you can identify 2 out of the wild thornberries, you cannot be a young Avenger. And like, there are some serious concerns with the fact that a bunch of old people are trying to project what will be young in 10 years. And I don't know. I feel like one of the things that this show got right is it's managing to create parallel media. And that's something that I am very fascinated by. I think parallel media is just as important as anything else. And so, like, I have a hard time with the fact that we do things one way. So if you've ever picked up a copy of Kid Riot, which is about like the coolest, hottest, fucking best ever superhero ever from New Jersey, check it out. I'm just saying, we were there before Kamala. Just saying. But if you want to check it out, Kid Riot, super great comic book. One of the things we did was we made sure that the first printed editions had prose in them, and every printed edition has had some kind of prose in it. So like, part of why that's so important is because eventually when we do more prose-centered Kid Riot, we have it. The comic book universe of Marvel went, I don't know, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, and it's just comics. And every time something is a cool prose story, they kick it out. And every time something is a cool piece of visual media that isn't quite a comic book, they kick it out. But the MCU, movies, TV shows, soundtracks, right away. And the fact that things like Guardians of the Galaxy made the soundtrack an intrinsic part of the experience adds to the fact that these songs are valid in a way that so few things are. I just want to celebrate that I think Agatha All Along as a TV show, a soundtrack compilation project, and a sequel concept is basically a theme park attraction. Like, it's really stupid, but like when I get really excited, I like to flex and then stick my arms up in the air. It's a very dumb thing, but like when I'm truly excited, I like to shout bear, go for it. And like, there is something very Agatha about how this character has celebrated that identity. I don't know. I think there's something really cool and exciting about what we're getting here that I kind of challenge the Marvel comic universe to match Agatha's cool. She has a song. She's in a TV show. She got a spinoff. She's ripe for a theme park attraction. She could go into any of the movies tomorrow. She could be the villain of the next Doctor Strange movie, and I wouldn't blink twice. And that's something that I feel like the Marvel Cinematic Universe has yet to generate out of a Captain America movie.
And it makes me glad that the next television property, at least, is something like Daredevil, that I think we can pretty strongly feel that we have good faith in, with everything we've seen coming out and everything that we have to hope about it. But it really means a lot of the other stuff that's in production kind of needs to step up.
And I mean, and my parasocial imaginary romantic relationship with Vincent D'Onofrio, where he dresses as
oh my god,
taking out to dinner. We eat at Carmine's, we eat at Havana's. He loves to take me to Midtown, you guys.
I bet.
Real quick, Eli is 22. Cassie is 27. Kit Connor is 20. Like anybody who would be the youngest person is Xochitl Gomez, who is 18.
So the trio of women with Kate and with Black Widow and with Stature are all specifically older.
I think we've lost Florence Pugh. Florence Pugh, who is 28, is fully Thunderbolts. I do not think they will be putting her in Young Avengers. But the fact that it's so weird to me that they put her in Thunderbolts in the first place, because immediately for me, the biggest takeaway from Hawkeye after, we have Daredevil in this universe and it's not the Daredevil we have at home, is the chemistry between Body by Jake's niece and Florence Pugh. The whole show for me was their scenes together. Like, that was the fact that we're not doing Hawkeye and White Widow as a show or a movie or whatever. It to me is just such a waste, because again, who better to send out on a press tour promoting a show that is absolutely just going to get memed into the sky. So, but anyway, that said, I don't think we have Florence Pugh for Young Avengers, but everybody that we have is fully an adult. That show is not being made right now. And so by the time it even starts production and then is 2 years down the line for actually showing up, some of these people are definitely 30 before this gets made, I think. And that's fine. They can be. I don't know. To Nico's point, I really do think that the potential, not just of the characters, but of the cast and the strength of the energy that everybody is bringing to this show really is the best of what the MCU has. My concern is that they never seem to capitalize on it, because I felt the same way about Tatiana Maslany. I felt like she was bringing so much energy into who She-Hulk was and a perspective for the character that meant it would be a treat to see She-Hulk show up in something. It would be a treat to have her comedy break the fourth wall, but also be super duper strong and show up in Hero Sum. Like, I could see it working so well. And similarly, Catherine Hahn, I can see her being protagonist, antagonist, anti-hero in so many different productions.
DJ in Linkin Park.
Please, she could replace the
Catherine
Danny
Hahn.
Masterson apologist as the lead singer. I just nothing but potential. And same for Sashir, same for Aubrey Plaza, same for Joe Locke, same for Alian. This is nothing but potential.
Part of what I'm really thinking about when you say potential is I'm thinking about the multitude of multiversity that this presents yet ahead of us. What if Mrs. Hart is Blackheart, is someone significant? What if Wiccan isn't exactly Billy Kaplan, but is Nicholas Scratch and will become Billy Kaplan? What if this isn't Billy Kaplan? What if this is someone else? There are so many things that I feel could still yet happen, but I'm not ready to commit to any of them yet. And I would like to spend just a little bit of time talking about some of the multiversity, though. You've got that finger in the air like you really care.
I was just realizing that maybe he's Master Pandemonium and he's going to have Joe Locke as one of his arms later. That's a thing. That's how we first get introduced to them. So, whatever.
Might as well start getting weird with stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So much canon, and I love when we introduce new things and take new concepts. But yeah, there's also a lot of deep lore, and I really would love to see stuff like that being pulled from and expanded and remixed. It doesn't have to be exactly what it was in the comics. There's a lot of stuff that they do in fiction like this, in and of itself, that changes the meaning of stuff. Like, that's not what sigil is, that's not what chaos magic is, that's not what runes are, that's not what hexes or that's not what these things are in actual Wicca or pagan studies or any of those things. But they take those words and they use them for things in fictional language, and it is what it is because you're pulling from folklore and concepts. And it's the same thing with Marvel canon. We have these creatures and monsters and demons and villains that we can say it's, like you said, Master Pandemonium, and do it in a way that's interesting and new.
And so, first question, and if this is not where everybody's brain is at, I don't mean to be the Grant Morrison of our final crisis, but and by that I mean botch everything so badly that nothing ever recovers and the universe has to end. But what I would love to know is, okay, if this is not Wiccan Billy Kaplan, who do you hope it is? Me, it's Young Nightmare. How about you guys?
Now I hope it's Young Nightmare. I really didn't. We had not discussed that theory beforehand, but I really like it. I also I would be cool if it were maybe a multiversal Billy or some it's an offshoot of Wanda's magic, but it's different than what will eventually be Billy Kaplan. And ultimately, I am totally fine if it's Billy. I appreciate the work that they have put into not letting it be a foregone conclusion and playing around with it a little bit as the show has gone on.
Yes. I flashed before Joe Locke's story from Insta being 2 years keeping this secret, but that's really the most confirmation that we've actually seen from production. So yeah, I would love if this is something that is more maybe this is what pulls Billy and Tommy back, or them coming back is the repercussions of what happens here. I would need to know more about Nightmare, but I love the scenario you've described, and I love the idea of him being someone who wants to be Nicholas Scratch or wants to be Billy Maximoff, and he is this other thing. And so these are misleads that are going to then perhaps be the seeds of something grander. Yeah.
Well, so then my next question is, if this is Wiccan, but not exactly our Billy Kaplan, who do you hope it is? I think I kind of love the idea that it is whoever they make the child of Agatha, whether it's Nicholas Scratch or they make this the child of somebody she wronged, so it is her child in revenge. Whatever version of the sort of Lady Bullseye myth they make this character, that's what I would love for a different Wiccan. How about you guys? If it's not Billy Kaplan as Wiccan, what do you hope it is?
Do you have one locked yet?
It's actually just Locke. It's Joe Locke.
I am going to pitch the Ray No One camp, and I'm going to say, what if he actually is just some teen, and this is something completely random, and it's all about what Agatha projects onto him. Part of why I included the clip I did at the beginning of this, and something I keep thinking about so much, is the fact that the title is Agatha All Along, and how much of this is supposed to be about her. And, that's why we think it's Nicholas Scratch and that it's not. We're going to think it's Billy and then it's not. It might just be some kid who was hexed by someone. And maybe who put the hex on him will be more important. And maybe, again, he'll lead to something important. But I kind of wonder about Teen No One.
Just to have a third answer, and because I really was sitting there with Jake scratching my head, Nicholas scratching my head about who this could be. It's obviously not Jericho Drum, Dr. Voodoo. There's just so few male magic users that we get a lot of exposure to. Doyle Dormammu. We have seen Dormammu. We don't really have the same familiarity with the Dormammu family, but yeah, Doyle Dormammu, for those who don't know, is a character from Strange Academy. He is the son of Dormammu, the character that you will have seen from Doctor Strange. He is a teen magic user, but he does have a flaming spherical pumpkin type head, so who knows, anything's possible in this world. But best guess, Doyle Dormammu. And shout out to show contributor Peak Jonah.
Yeah.
Great guess here. Peak Jonah thinks he could be Sleepwalker.
I love the idea of Son of Dormammu specifically because something that I, as someone who is more of a casual comics fan, have felt like I don't really see as much that I think fans of an MCU would appreciate is that counterbalance from Young Avengers of seeing young villains, not necessarily in a Disney Descendants way, but just, if you're going to have Young Avengers, why aren't you showing the gamut of villains as well? So I think that would be interesting. There are a lot of really great villain guesses, and I'm still very intrigued by those.
Okay, so then my next question is, if this is Billy Kaplan, do you hope this is the Billy Kaplan of the Young Avengers, or are you hoping that maybe...
Oh, you kind of glitched for me.
It was HGA... What?
You glitched at maybe.
I'm going to restart then.
Yeah, let's take that question from one.
Always fine.
So if this is not Hulk, if this is not Wiccan, then I'm so sorry. If this is not Billy Kaplan as Wiccan, then what do you hope this is as a character?
Wasn't that the last question?
Well, then let's wrap up. So then let's wrap up. I've really enjoyed talking about Agatha All Along. One of the things that I've really appreciated is that in a world where I think maybe sometimes the comics don't always push far enough, at least this TV show did. At least this TV show sought to create not just a soundtrack, but a sound sphere. The songs of this show are so important, whether it's Agatha All Along, Agatha's theme, or the Ballad of Witches Road. There is so much to mine from this that is so important, and I'm so excited about how this is pushing us to think about TV shows in slightly different ways. How about you guys?
I'm going to jump on first because this is one of my favorite composers since I'm like 14 years old, Christoph Beck, who did the score on Buffy for seasons 2 through 4, and then came back for parts of 5 and 6. I've been a huge fan of his ever since then. And then, funny enough, you mentioned the team from Frozen, also the composer for Frozen. So that full team does both music and lyrics for WandaVision, for Agatha All Along. So that is pretty interesting. And, such an amazing team that has such accolades for the music that they did for that project. I really love what music has brought to this and how it's elevated this project, especially because I wasn't very blown away by something like the Rogers musical in Hawkeye. I thought it was kind of funny, but like in an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia way. It didn't, to me, actually feel like they put in the effort to make something that looked like a Broadway scene. I know something like that is expensive, but if you're saying you're going to do it, then kind of do it. And that didn't, but this, all the use of music on this project is really amazing so far.
My huge takeaway from this is I love when the MCU honors the spheres that make up the Marvel universe, the magic sphere, the horror sphere, the, just the straight up superhero sphere, the street superhero sphere. There's so many little corners of the Marvel universe, and it's not just a genre thing. It's not just, the horror the horror show needs to be emblematic of other horror shows. Werewolf by Night is so special because it doesn't do what a lot of present day horror stuff does. It really honors pulpy horror writing and then sort of a retro aesthetic. But what it's really doing is taking inspiration from Werewolf by Night, the Marvel property, the comic property, and going full force into telling a great story. And I feel like Agatha All Along is really doing the same thing when it comes to the world of magic. It is taking a lot of inspiration from what Marvel has written into the comics and just giving so much energy to the story that they want to tell, the characters that they want to build up. I got to give them so much credit for being the lowest budget show in the history of the MCU, because I still think it looks great. I think The Witches Road, in some ways, they actually like, there are pieces of the budget that I'm like, see, if you hadn't spent the money on the fog machines, you probably would have had a little left over, and they're not really adding anything. They're kind of taking away from what you're trying to do. So you could have cut the fog machines. We would have been good. But I'm just so impressed. For me, the MCU is at its best at this point because it is so huge, and because we know we're always getting an Avengers movie that will be the lowest common denominator. Kevo, phenomenal comparison from The Witches Road and the Yellow Brick Road. I love it. We're always going to have an Avengers movie, and we're always going to be pointing towards at least a few blockbusters in a phase that the demand is these have to appeal to as many people as humanly possible and break box office records and be huge. But I don't think that should be everything the MCU does. I really do think you can be niche and still be huge. Because there are so many of us, and we all have overlapping tastes, and people are part of multiple fandoms. So I love a show like this that is absolutely not for everybody, that is not lowest common denominator, but I think can still please a ton of people and add a lot to the MCU lore. And build up a lot of other shows. As Nico said, like, Agatha can slot in anywhere after this. I would love to see what she looks like in Doomsday, what Day of Doom, what is it?
Doomsday, I think.
Doomsday, the Doom movie. I wanted to yell at Robert Downey Jr. That's what I want.
Well, and I am really excited for the future of where the MCU and the Disney Plus MCU sort of like separate track is going to go. There's so much that separates the two, whether you're looking for movies or TV shows. They're unrelated, because I don't know that they would do an Agatha All Along film the way they gave this 9 episodes, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a completely different conversation.
We have 3 weeks left. We have 2 single episode drops, and then we have the 2 episode finale on October 30th.
I am so excited, because one of the things that this show ending signifies is the first time in a kind of a long while that the end of an ongoing show felt consequential. While whatever the ending of Echo was going to be consequential, it was a drop. While whatever the ending of Ms. Marvel was going to be, it was going to be central to Ms. Marvel, and perhaps, wonderfully inclusively the Marvels. But it feels a little bit like everything Ms. Marvel did was leading to the Marvels. I feel like so much of what we're getting from Agatha All Along could reshape the identity of what Marvel does for magic, and I can't wait to see where they go from here. And, Kevo, I know this isn't as much your domain, but TK, you brought up Doyle, and I know that Strange Academy is something that you care about very much, and is definitely something that I would love to see the MCU interpolate.
Couldn't agree more. There's some kids for you. They got to be kids. They're in high school. And yeah, Strange Academy would be really awesome. Jack Schaefer makes me feel like the type of voice that you would need to tell a really great MCU quirky kids show, teen show, is there. I think if you kind of fuse that and Ms. Marvel, you would get something really perfect for something like for adapting Strange Academy. So yeah, I mean, just again, as I keep saying, infinite potential.
And I think the seeds are even already there. I mentioned America Chavez earlier. She was last left in the care of Doctor Strange, trying to learn the circle thing. So it even feels like they are already setting the seeds for doing a story like there being a Strange Academy down the line.
And because one of the things that the MCU does not have to deal with is the burden of 80, 90, 100 years of canon to contend with, the MCU is still yet introducing Wiccan. While, yeah, the MCU has 20 years at this point, it doesn't have 20 years involving Wiccan. So there's an opportunity to engage with ideas in a new way, just sort of like the way, I'm going to say her name wrong. I feel so bad. Charlize Theron, Throne.
Charlize Theron.
It should sound like Throne. Charlize Theron is Clea in a very nebulous way.
Yes.
I think it's fascinating that a character like Clea, with 70 years of canon and having been properly the Sorcerer Supreme, has had 1 minute of screen time, but these three fags have spent the last hour and 15 minutes and 10 seconds speculating about what that dude might possibly be doing as this other fag with 15 years, 20 years of character experience.
It's fags all the way down.
Because the thing is, again, it's at the end of 3 weeks, maybe he is Sleepwalker like Jonah suggested. We are all in a tizzy over him being Wiccan, and it might just be a fake out. So who knows?
Well, you know, one of the things that I think is really interesting, and I'm being really silly just to kind of carry the episode out, is, guys, who's the top? Wiccan or Hulkling? Because Wiccan's the top in like a twink top way, but Hulkling's the top in like a sort of like a little too on the nose Matthew Rush kind of way. So I don't know, but like as three tops, who do we think the top is? For me, I'm going to have to say, I assume they just sort of like tag in Patriot. Eli, what you doing? All joking aside, I imagine he just finds new ways to say dildo backward. But I assume Hulkling has to kind of like at least top both of them sometimes. He can sort of be like Creed double dick and take care of everything all at once.
That is a phenomenal theory. I was going to go with they're just both verse.
Jesus. Well, Kevo, take us to the chorus.
Yeah, and you hit something on the head really with the fact that Billy is probably very demanding and that Hulkling is probably very subby in sort of a service top kind of way. I kind of imagine a less bratty version of what I imagined for Prince Wu and Mako from the end of Legend of Korra, because they were definitely also a queer couple.
Yep, that couple helped me deal with a lot of my service top feels. Yep.
Yeah, I feel like that is what I imagine. Just a little bit less bratty on Billy's end, but you know what? From what I understand, maybe not. And that is what I picture for Hulkling and Billy in terms of who does what. That's between them and the Marvel gods.
Well, I love that. Kevo, I have had such an amazing time talking about WandaVision with you. It's, oh my God. Nope. I feel so stupid because, yeah, I think this should have been called WandaVision, Agatha All Along. It should really carry the banner, because one of the things that I think we are occasionally losing out on by just calling both seasons Loki is we're losing out on the opportunity to engage with this bigger idea of what it means to be Loki. One was Loki, the multiverse. One was Loki, the responsibility. And I feel like in that same breath, you could make the argument that Falcon and Winter Soldier led directly into Secret Invasion, and that should have been called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the continuation. And it should have been this thing that dignified the identity of being someone who searches for truth in the Marvel Universe. And so, while I certainly called this WandaVision because I'm a silly, silly man, I also think I was calling out to sort of what supplied this with the energy that gave Catherine Hahn the biggest streaming numbers that Disney Plus has ever seen for a Marvel show in its first week, And I'm a big fan. I have long said that she represents literally my favorite character on my number 3 ever sitcom ever. But I think she is literally one of the greatest actresses. I think she is TV, that sort of like Greg Daniels verse Meryl Streep. Like, and I'm not trying to be stupid, but like truly, I think she is one of the finest actresses of her generation for her genre. And to see her stretch her arms and her wings and her mind into this beautiful new thing, it reminds me of when an artist enters a new period in their life, and even if it doesn't stick, even if it's just a Michael Jordan with baseball, it changes the cultural landscape, and I'm grateful for it. Kevo, what you got?
It's funny because we're always learning and growing with these things. I think they realized immediately after Iron Man 2 that titling was a mistake, because we very quickly stopped seeing numbers, and it was Thor: The Dark World or Captain America: Civil War. I don't know if WandaVision : would have worked. And to even tag on to what you're saying about Catherine Hahn, I really appreciate this being titled for her, because it is such a celebration of her and her talent. And I think making it WandaVision : would have been not quite as spotlighting her as would have been fair, unless Elizabeth Olsen is going to show up for the last 2 episodes, in which case, huzzah, and I'm here for it. But, they have said that there is a concentrated effort going forward. They want to do more like you are thinking, where it is going to be shows that will have seasons rather than these finite projects. I'm not sure which is better, and I kind of feel like both are good, and I wish that we could be a little bit better about there being both. Because now, like I said, if the next project, if this is Billy, if the next project is showing Tommy and his search for Wanda, what would that be titled, and how would that fall under another WandaVision : depending on who let us into Tommy? It's the naming stuff's going to get weird for a while, I think. What do you got?
I was just laughing because I was like, they'd call it Speed. No, they'd call it Speed 2, Cruise Control.
The boy who couldn't slow down.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, so one of the things we've been talking about a lot on this show lately is the excitement of getting to see people you long to get an opportunity to engage with an idea in that form. TK, I don't know that I wanted to see you engage with Jennifer Kale in this form, or necessarily with the idea of Wiccan take this shape, but much in the same way that seeing Kevo's mind finally let loose on comic ideas is so engaging for me. Seeing your interpretation, which is, like, I don't want to be like annoying, but like, just to like, if the MCU is Kuntz, you're Basquiat, you're the thing that will be represented a little bit later on, while what's going on is definitely happening at the moment. And I would love to know how you feel about the choices as somebody who understands how to make film, as somebody who understands what goes into comics. How do you feel, much in the same way as Kevo, seeing these things come to life, about the form that your MCU is taking? Your MCU needs you.
My MCU does need me, but I know it needs a lot of other people too. We're just in this really weird place of how form and function are mixing together. And we are, I mean, you pointing to the Disney Plus MCU being a very different place than the big screen MCU is a really important thing. As I reflect on it months later, although I had a blast and I love that it exists and I have nothing ill to say about it, I don't think Deadpool and Wolverine is high in my MCU film canon, and I don't think it really matters that much to me. But it is a huge seller. It is like the biggest streamed thing now of all time, like just printing money. It is a bank in and of itself, and that's what Disney wants. Of course they do. That's their job. I don't love living in the capitalist hellscape, but I get that that's what's happening, and I get that's where a lot of the art that I consume comes from. Meanwhile, I really do think there is functionality and availability for generating shareholder value in niche programming. And when we see really fantastic niche programming like Agatha All Along, it gives me hope that people can see that this is stuff worth doing. And although there can be no ethical consumption under capitalism, and by extension it is very difficult to make great art under capitalism, it's possible to make something really enjoyable that feels like it has heart and authenticity. Yeah, it's always going to be constrained, but maybe those constraints can be a little more tolerable. And I feel like that's what we have here. I'm rooting for more stuff like this. As I mentioned before, this feels like a kindred spirit to Werewolf by Night. One of my just favorite MCU things of all time. I would love to see Ghost Rider be in the same vein when it eventually shows up. I would love to see a Strange Academy show. When the X-Men eventually get here, I would love for some of their genre content to be more like this. I just see, third time, infinite potential here.
And I really truly love what you're saying, because one of the things that when you say infinite potential, it has to involve, that's one of the things I'm saying this inspired me to think about, is they used actors who are also at least potentially vocalists. Mm-hmm. And so I'm left asking, where do we go from here? This isn't where we intended to be. You had it all. You believed in me. I believed in you. Certainties disappear. What do we do for a dream to survive? How do we keep, Kevo, please bring up Patty, all our passions alive? As we used to do? Deep in my heart, I'm concealing things that I'm longing to say, guys. I swear to fucking God, everything I own to hear that woman sing the best song that Andrew Lloyd Webber ever contributed to, With You Must Love Me.
Minus every song from Starlight Express, but whatever. Okay, sure, fine, whatever.
Which, by the way, it was written for the original Evita, but it did not make it in. Why are you at my side? No, legitimately, actually asking, how can I be of any use to you now? The end of the episode is here. So I have little more to say about Agatha for the first 5 episodes, other than I have been ensorcelled, entranced, and truly forced to reckon with the fact that I don't consider anything but what is on the page comic book canon, but I consider the imaginary vinyls of this universe a necessary part of appreciating what makes one of my favorite TV shows of the year, maybe not one of my favorite TV shows of the Marvel Universe ever, because I feel like that's a banner that I apply to too many things.
And you need to finish before you can fully decide that too, I think.
Yeah, no, truly, because it could stick the landing and I could be really mind blown, or it could just keep continuing to Falcon and Winter Soldier and week after week, except for the fact that Anthony Mackie is so big that I have no choice but to go, or
God forbid, Secret Invasion.
Oh no, we don't bring that up because Emily doesn't want us to. But no, that's even kind of what I'm trying to say. And thank you so much for highlighting it. I loved this, and I've loved this first half, but when you're talking about 9 episodes and you're talking about a show that is meant to sort of represent like mini movies week after week, you're talking about a show that could run the gamut of experience from now till the end. So what I think is setting up one of my favorite shows of all time could set up far and away the best show I've ever seen, or perhaps a Marvel show that I wish I could forget. Perhaps a little bit more along the lines like Jessica Jones season 3. Hey, what's up, bitch? Not my thing. But, if this has one of those scenes, and I'm being Nico for a minute, full on Nico on air. If there can just be a scene of Agatha absolutely being like, no, look, you can't cuck me. Like from Punisher season 1 in
Oh my
anybody's
God.
face, I will laugh for the rest of my life at Catherine Hahn being able to sell
Isn't that Ben Grimm now? That guy. Yeah.
No.
Hold on.
No.
Yeah. Micro from Punisher. Ebon Moss Bachrach is going to be the Thing in Fantastic Four. So he is another one who was already in an MCU project and is now going to. And Punisher is canon in the MCU, baby, because he's coming back for Daredevil.
Listen.
So his Micro, who for some bizarre reason Punisher aggressively threatened to cuck to get to help him, is going to be in the MCU as Ben Grimm. Yep.
Hey, Ebon, how does it feel to do it before Robert? Good for you. I don't know. Wow, that's nuts. Wow. I just really think that this is in a prime place for the Marvel Universe to do some really great regrouping. We've talked a lot about how the last couple of films have really failed to set our imaginations afire, but I think more about this show than I do about the last couple of movies combined. And until they give me love played by a young Kellen Lutz in the next Thor movie, I just don't know that I'm quite as compelled by the gay of anything. The way this movie, I just did it again, the way this show has delivered on lesbians on such a low budget, and I don't know. I'm really grateful. I'm really impressed. And until we come back to this, I would love to know your guys' final thoughts on Agatha All Along and where you think it's going to lead the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Kevo, you're first up, and where can we find you?
I am really excited to know how it's all going to end and how this is going to affect the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe, if at all. Everything does to degrees. I really want to do a broadcast about the abandoned storylines that aren't abandoned. It's just things take time. That's why we're getting Leader in Captain America, whatever the next one coming out is, all the way back from The Incredible Hulk in 2008. These things just take time. And so I will be really, really interested to know what seeds from this project are going to seep into things in the future. And just to see how everything shakes out. I'm looking forward to coming back here and sharing our final thoughts on how everything went. And until then, you can find me over on the socials at Kevo Really. That's KEVOREALLY.
I'm here for the infinite potential. I'm just kind of keeping my eyes open, my ears open. In a perfect world, it's Sashir and it's Jennifer Kale and it's Ghost Rider. But we still, Aubrey Plaza could still be somebody big for Marvel. We don't, Rio might be a cover identity. So I'd be super excited about that. Super excited about Lilia. Joe Locke's going to do what Joe Locke's going to do, and that's going to be fine no matter what. I have no worry about the Young Avengers or any casting. It's going to be what it is. I think their biggest problem right now is the fact that from Iron Man in 2008 to Avengers, that's 4 years before we got the Avengers movie. And let's say we started with Haley and Hawkeye. We're not getting, so that's 2021. We're not getting Young Avengers before 2027, certainly. And I think it's probably more like 2028, 2029 at this point. So I just feel like it's a thing where, or maybe it's a show and it does come out sooner, but they better get on it is my point. And in the meantime,
yes.
I hope they do. I don't care. It's just going to happen. But it's stuff like this where I'm like, there was no part of any of us was ever like, yeah, they're obviously going to do an Agatha show. And it's the stuff that's
right.
They're obviously going to do a 40-minute Werewolf by Night, like pulp feature, obviously. So it's the stuff that is so not obvious that Marvel does that gets me really excited. And hopefully this begets less obvious ideas too. I think totally not related to this, but could be really exciting, will be Ironheart. And again, could be related, but still separate. Bring back Namor. He's so hot.
Yeah.
I love him so much. Anyway, if you want to talk about how hot Namor is, you can find me at TK Elemental. Nico, take us home.
And from a man who is hot underwater to a man who is often kind of cold on some of what the MCU is doing above ground, I was really excited by what Agatha All Along has managed to deliver for the first 4 weeks of the program. That said, one of the things you run the risk of with a show like this is the ever increasing stakes. We're going to hit that sort of like screaming dark magic nonsense shit that bores me to pieces. And when we get there, I assume my grade will drop off. But if we get there and it's amazing, like if this is some cool take on Billy Kaplan, well, I'm in. If we get there and there is no weird screaming nonsense, I'm triple in. And that's what this is really representing. What are we going to get and how are we going to get there? There has been no easy path to Agatha All Along for anybody involved, but what has gotten us here is an excellence of storytelling and a dedication to shaping characters that fit a universe, even if the actors don't necessarily fit the characters that inspired that universe. And I, for one, am really grateful for wherever we're going to go based on this. Is Joe Locke my Wiccan? Probably not, but I think because my Wiccan is a little younger right now, I don't want to think that is some guy that I might hit on at a club. I want to think that Wiccan is some 15-year-old guy who I would literally never even imagine to hit on in my entire lifetime. Oh, like that's where I'm at. And I root for whoever gets the role, whether it's Joe Locke, whether it's somebody a few years older or somebody a few years younger. No matter where we go with it, it maintains a quality of excellence in queer storytelling set by the likes of Alan Heinberg and so many incredible writers well before his time at Marvel. And I am eager to see where all of it winds up shuffling out in the world of the MCU through TV, film, soundtracks, and more. And until then, you guys can check me out at Nico Action and ICOACTION. If you guys want to check out this amazing guy down there, this producer, this super awesome guy, if you want to check out his amazing video that's going to be up over on Nico Action Music in the next couple of days for my mix of Witches Road and Agatha All Along, you guys can check that out at Nico Action Music. That's NICOACTION MUSIC. And of course, the most important thing you guys can do is check out the show. That is X is for show, X is for podcast, and HTML, which may or may not be making a comeback. And that is, of course, to both of those amazing podcast feats. That is me and the guy next to me, super wonderful human being next to me, and super wonderful human being below me, TK on X is for podcast, and Kevo on HTML. You guys can check out those new feeds hopefully in the next couple of weeks, so keep your eyes peeled. But until then, 3 things you guys can do for us: like, comment, and subscribe on any of those feeds, preferably YouTube because, algorithms. But 3 things you guys can do for us: number 1, stay safe; number 2, be brave; and number 3, evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, incredible. Who you are today, we love it. But who you are tomorrow, that's the dream. And until then, we are going to be there for you, and we can't wait to see you. So tune in next time for Sunday Drag Race, and we'll see ya.